At my housewarming party, a celebration I planned to mark the proud milestone of buying my $960,000 dream home, my sister suddenly blurted out, "This house is perfect for my kids," as if it belonged to her. I laughed awkwardly, thinking it was a joke, but then my mom looked me straight in the eye and said, "She's right. You're single with no children, and she needs the space more than you do." That's when I realized my family didn't come to congratulate me, they came to make a claim. "Pack your bags." I smiled, took out my phone, and showed them the document that changed everything. "Remember when you kicked me out at 18? I bought this house with it." My name's Hazel Matthews, I'm 32, and right now I'm standing here, in the foyer of my new home, this $960,000 house that's the absolute culmination of years of sacrifice, of hustling my butt off. Every single marble countertop, every gleaming hardwood floor, it represents every all-nighter I pulled building my tech company from the ground up. Today's my housewarming party, and I should be over the moon, celebrating, right? But instead, my stomach's knotted up in a massive ball because my sister, Cassandra, just strutted in with my mother, Eleanor. And honestly, something about their expressions, that look on their faces, it makes my skin crawl. I've seen it before. The last time was when I was 18. That night. The night that changed absolutely everything. Before I tell you what happened next, what unfolded right here in my own living room, how I handled the most shocking betrayal you can imagine, tell me, where are you watching from? Hit that like button and subscribe, because trust me, this is a story you won't want to miss. Growing up in a solidly middle-class neighborhood in Boston, that really shaped who I am. Our family, we weren't rich, but we were comfortable. My dad worked in finance, my mom ran a small boutique downtown. From the outside, you probably would have looked at us and thought, "Yep, perfect American family. 2 parents, 2 daughters, and a golden retriever named Rusty." But appearances, well, they can be incredibly deceiving. When I was just 12, that foundation we had, it just cracked. I remember sitting at the dining table, my dad just announced he was moving out. The divorce itself, it wasn't dramatic. No yelling, no plates thrown, just this quiet, cold dissolution of a marriage that had simply withered away. What came after, though? That set the stage for years of pure family dysfunction. My sister, Cassandra, she was 15 at the time. By the time Cassandra turned 22, she'd met and married Eric, this young investment banker from a super wealthy family. Their wedding? Oh my God, it was lavish. My mom, Eleanor, she spent nearly $50,000 on it. Money she definitely didn't have. But she justified it. "A daughter only gets married once, Hazel." I was 19 then, working 2 jobs, going to community college, and I chipped in every single penny I could for my bridesmaid expenses. Within a year of getting married, Cassandra announced her first pregnancy. Thomas arrived, this beautiful baby boy, and he instantly became the absolute center of my mom's universe. Natalie followed 2 years later, and then Benjamin 3 years after that. And you know, with each child, Cassandra seemed to grow more and more entitled to family support, financial, emotional, you name it. Even though she married into serious money, Cassandra and Eric lived way beyond their means. Their house in the suburbs was too big, their cars too expensive, their vacations too extravagant. And when they hit financial snags, my mom, Eleanor, was always there to bail them out. Always. And more often than not, it was at my expense. "Your sister has 3 children to feed, Hazel," my mom would say. "What do you need extra money for anyway? Books? Can't you just use the library?" Meanwhile, I was working myself to exhaustion. After high school, I'd set my sights on a computer science degree. Even with scholarships, the financial burden was overwhelming. Without any family support, I was a barista in the mornings, a tutor in the afternoons, and a data entry clerk on weekends. Sleep? Sleep became a luxury I just couldn't afford. My dad, he wasn't much help either. After the divorce, he moved to Chicago for work, started a whole new family with his second wife. Our calls grew less frequent, our relationship just distant. He'd send birthday cards with modest checks, but he was largely absent. And I don't blame him entirely. My mom, Eleanor, she made it so difficult for him to stay connected, especially with me. She'd forget to tell me when he called, or accidentally delete his messages. Still, I persevered. While Cassandra was busy posting photos of her perfect family vacations on social media, I was pulling all-nighters, coding, studying. I graduated high school at the top of my class, earned a partial scholarship to a state university. My mom even came to my graduation ceremony, but she left early because Cassandra called with a family emergency. Little Thomas had a mild fever. Can you believe it? Through it all, I never complained. I just accepted it. This was my reality, and I was determined to create my own success. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their support. I would build something on my own terms. What I didn't expect, what no one could have predicted, was how dramatically everything would change on my 18th birthday. That night, it redefined our entire family dynamic and set me on a path I never, ever anticipated. A path that ultimately led to the confrontation right here, at my housewarming party, 14 years later. My 18th birthday fell on a Tuesday. I remember it specifically because I'd actually managed to arrange my work schedule to have the evening off, a super rare occurrence back then. I didn't really expect much of a celebration. Cassandra and Eric had just announced they were expecting their third child, and surprise, surprise, all the family attention was firmly focused on that news. Still, turning 18 felt significant. I was legally an adult, finishing my final year of high school, and I'd been accepted to 3 universities with partial scholarships. I was so proud. That evening, I got home from my tutoring job and found my mom and Cassandra sitting at our kitchen table, spreadsheets spread out everywhere between them. They barely even looked up when I walked in. "There's leftover lasagna in the fridge if you're hungry," Mom mumbled, her eyes still glued to the papers. I heated up a plate and joined them, genuinely curious about what had them so intensely concentrated. "What are you two working on?" I asked. Mom glanced up. "Just figuring out some financial matters. Cassandra and Eric need a bigger house now that Benjamin's on the way." I nodded. I was so used to these conversations, this constant focus on Cassandra's needs. But then, I noticed something. A familiar document. My blood ran cold. "Why do you have my college paperwork?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Cassandra sighed, dramatically of course. "We might as well tell her, Mom." My mom, Eleanor, straightened the papers, then looked at me with that expression. "You know the one. The one that always preceded unwelcome news about some family sacrifice I need to make. Hazel, we need to discuss your college plans," she began, her voice carefully neutral. "With Cassandra expecting again, they really need a 4-bedroom house. Eric's bonus wasn't as large as they expected this year, and they're a bit stretched." I sat there, silent, already sensing exactly where this was going. "The thing is," Cassandra interjected, leaning forward, "we've calculated everything, and even with Eric's salary and Mom helping with the down payment, we're still short." "Short for what?" I asked, even though I already knew. Deep down, I already knew. "We need to use your college fund," Mom stated flatly. The words just hung there. "It's not like you don't have scholarships already. And community college is perfectly respectable, Hazel. You can transfer to a university later, when things aren't so tight for the family." My college fund. The money my dad had started before the divorce, the money my mom had promised remained untouched, earmarked solely for my education. The fund I'd counted on to cover what scholarships wouldn't. "But that's my money," I said quietly, a tremor in my voice. "Dad set it aside for my education." Cassandra rolled her eyes. A full, dramatic eye roll. "Don't be selfish, Hazel. We're talking about a home for your niece and nephews. Where are they supposed to sleep? Should Benjamin just live in a closet because you want to attend some fancy university?" "That's not what I'm saying," I protested, my voice rising. "But I've worked so hard for this. I've maintained a 4.0 GPA while working multiple jobs. Those scholarships won't cover everything. You can take out loans like everyone else, Hazel. Cassandra snapped, her voice sharp. Eric and I have a mortgage. That's life. Or, Mom added, a subtle hint of manipulation in her tone. You could live at home and attend community college. That would be much more economical. And then, something just shifted inside me. A lifetime of compliance, of quietly accepting, it all just snapped. It gave way to this burning indignation. No. The simple word hung there, heavy in the air between us. My mom blinked, clearly unused to any resistance from me. Excuse me? She said, her voice laced with disbelief. No, I repeated. Stronger this time. That money is for my education. Dad, and you set it aside for me. It's not Cassandra's house fund. My mom's expression hardened. This isn't a negotiation, Hazel. This is what's happening. Your sister has a family to provide for. And I have a future to build. I countered, my voice shaking now. I've earned those scholarships. I've worked while maintaining perfect grades. I deserve to use my college fund for college. Cassandra laughed. A cold, dismissive sound that cut me deep. Oh, please. Like you know anything about real responsibility. Try having 3 children before you lecture us on what you deserve. I felt tears threatening, but I held them back. I absolutely refused to cry in front of them. This isn't fair, I whispered. And you know it. My mom stood up, her chair scraping loudly across the kitchen floor. My priority is my education, I said, my voice gaining strength. That's not wrong. Well then, Mom crossed her arms, her gaze unwavering. If that's your attitude, you have a choice to make, Hazel. Accept that the money is going to help your sister, or pack your bags and figure out life on your own. You're 18 now, after all. The ultimatum just hung in the air. Cassandra looked smug, absolutely certain I would back down, just like I always had. But something inside me had shattered beyond repair. Years of being second best, of sacrificing my needs for Cassandra's wants, it was all over. I stood up slowly. I'll pack my bags. The shock on their faces, honestly, it would have been so satisfying if I hadn't been absolutely terrified. Mom clearly hadn't expected me to choose independence. Don't be dramatic, Hazel, Cassandra scoffed. Where would you even go? I didn't answer. I just walked to my bedroom and pulled out my largest suitcase. With mechanical efficiency, I packed clothing, toiletries, my laptop, my most important documents. Family photos stayed on the walls. They didn't feel like mine anymore. Mom appeared in my doorway as I zipped the suitcase closed. You're being ridiculous, Hazel. Sleep on it, and we'll discuss this rationally in the morning. There's nothing to discuss, I replied, surprised by my own calm. You've made your position clear. I'm making mine clear too. I wheeled my suitcase past her, grabbed my backpack from the hook by the front door, and stepped out into the cold night. No one called after me. No one tried to stop me. That night, I slept in my car in a Walmart parking lot, using my work uniform as a pillow. The next day, I went to my barista job as usual, not saying a single word about my circumstances. For 2 weeks, I maintained this grueling routine, working my 3 jobs, sleeping in my car, showering at the gym where I had a discount membership. I told no one. On the 15th day, Professor Diane Reynolds, my computer science teacher, noticed me dozing in the library between classes. She gently woke me and asked if everything was all right. Something in her kind eyes, her genuine concern, broke my carefully maintained composure. And I told her everything. That evening, she drove me to her house and showed me her guest room. It's yours until you figure things out, Hazel, she said simply. No one should face this alone. Professor Reynolds became more than a teacher to me. She became my mentor, my advocate, and the first person who truly believed in my potential, without conditions. She helped me secure additional scholarships, guided me through financial aid applications, and gave me a key reference for an internship that would eventually change my life. That night I was kicked out. It shaped everything that followed. It taught me that I was truly on my own, yes, but also that chosen family could be more supportive than blood. Most importantly, it showed me my own strength, a strength I didn't even know I possessed until I was forced to find it. With Professor Reynolds's unwavering support, I managed to cobble together enough financial aid, scholarships, and part-time work to attend a nearby state university. It wasn't my dream school, Boston University, but it had a solid computer science program, and I was so grateful for the opportunity. College life was drastically different for me than for my peers. While they attended parties and joined clubs, I worked multiple jobs just to stay afloat. I waited tables at a diner near campus in the mornings, worked at the university IT help desk between classes, and did freelance web development projects late into the night. Sleep became a luxury. A social life? Non-existent. Despite this grueling schedule, I maintained a perfect GPA. The computer science curriculum came naturally to me, and I often found myself helping classmates who struggled with programming concepts. One of these classmates was Stephanie Chin, a brilliant but unfocused student who would become my absolute best friend and eventually, my business partner. Stephanie and I were opposites in so many ways. Where I was methodical and cautious, she was impulsive and creative. I excelled at back-end programming. She had this incredible eye for user experience and design. Together, we complemented each other perfectly. In our junior year, we started discussing an idea for a financial management app aimed at young adults. Most existing tools were designed for people who were already financially stable, not for those living paycheck to paycheck like we were. We recognized a massive gap in the market and truly believed we could fill it. Using the Campus Entrepreneurial Center's resources, we developed a prototype during our senior year. We called it Sends, an app that helped users visualize spending patterns, automate savings, and build credit responsibly. Our professors were impressed, but more importantly, our fellow students found it genuinely useful. After graduation, Stephanie and I faced a monumental decision: take stable corporate jobs or pursue our startup dream? The safe choice was incredibly tempting, especially given my deep-seated financial insecurity. But I remembered Professor Reynolds's words. Sometimes the riskiest path leads to the greatest rewards. We took the risk. We moved into a tiny, roach-infested apartment just to save money. We devoted ourselves entirely to developing senators I coded while eating ramen noodles. Stephanie designed user interfaces until dawn. We attended every networking event, every pitch competition, every startup workshop we could find. 6 months of rejections followed. Investors thought we were too young, too inexperienced, or focusing on the wrong demographic. College students don't care about financial planning, one venture capitalist told us dismissively. But we persisted. A breakthrough came when we won a small business grant that allowed us to hire our first employee, a marketing specialist who helped us refine our messaging. We pivoted slightly, targeting recent graduates burdened with student loans rather than current students. The app gained traction, slowly at first, then exponentially. A major tech blog featured us in their Apps to Watch section. A financial influencer with millions of followers recommended Sends to her audience. Our user base grew from thousands to hundreds of thousands. During this period of insane growth, I occasionally thought about reaching out to my family. I'd had minimal contact with them since that night. My mom had called once, about 3 months after I left, not to apologize, but to inform me that they'd gone ahead with using my college fund for Cassandra's down payment. My dad sent occasional texts, checking in, but our relationship remained distant. I focused instead on building my company and my life. The years passed in a blur of code, meetings, and gradual, undeniable success. Stephanie and I moved from our dingy apartment to a proper office. We hired more developers, customer service representatives, and marketing specialists. Sends evolved from a simple budgeting app to a comprehensive financial platform. 5 years after launching, we received an acquisition offer from one of the largest financial technology companies in the country. The number was staggering. Enough money to make both Stephanie and me millionaires several times over. After weeks of negotiations and soul-searching, we accepted. I was 30 years old, and suddenly wealthier than I'd ever imagined possible. The scared 18-year-old sleeping in her car seemed like a different person entirely. With financial security came the freedom to make deliberate choices, rather than desperate ones. I invested most of my windfall, donated to scholarships for first-generation college students, and finally allowed myself to think about creating a home. A real home. Not just a place to sleep between work shifts. After months of searching, I found it, a beautiful craftsman-style house in an upscale neighborhood. At $960,000, it was a significant investment, but well within my means. The 4-bedroom home had character and charm, hardwood floors, large windows, a wraparound porch, and a spacious backyard. It needed some renovations, but I saw its potential immediately. As I signed the closing documents, I thought about the irony. 14 years ago, my college fund had been taken to help buy Cassandra a larger house. Now I was purchasing a home worth nearly $1 million through my own efforts. During the renovation process, I received an unexpected message from my father. He'd seen news of Sen's acquisition online and wanted to congratulate me. Our conversation was awkward, but it opened a door. He explained that he'd lost track of me after I left home and had been too ashamed to try harder to find me. He divorced again and moved back to Boston. Would I consider meeting for coffee? That coffee meeting was tense, but also healing. My dad apologized for his absence during my difficult years. He admitted to knowing about the college fund situation but feeling powerless to intervene. I didn't forgive him immediately, but I appreciated his honesty. We agreed to work on rebuilding our relationship, slowly. During our conversation, he mentioned that Cassandra and Eric were having financial troubles again. Apparently, they'd had to downsize after Eric's company underwent restructuring. Mom was still supporting them however she could, he said. They don't know about your success, Dad added. I haven't told them. I nodded, unsure how I felt about that. Part of me wanted them to know, to see that I'd succeeded despite their lack of support. Another part preferred my accomplishments to remain private. As my house renovations neared completion, I decided to host a housewarming party. After some consideration, I added my family to the guest list. Stephanie thought I was setting myself up for disappointment, but I felt it was time to close that chapter of my life, one way or another. I sent formal invitations to Dad, Mom, Cassandra, and Eric. Dad responded immediately with acceptance. Mom called, surprised but agreeable. Cassandra sent a text. Looking forward to seeing how you're doing. We'll be there. The stage was set. For a reunion I never expected. One that would prove more dramatic than even I could have anticipated. The morning of my housewarming party dawned bright and clear. I woke early, despite having stayed up late putting final touches on the house. Every room was perfect. The living room with its comfortable sectional and built-in bookshelves, the gourmet kitchen with marble countertops and professional-grade appliances, the dining room that could seat 12 comfortably, and upstairs, 4 beautifully appointed bedrooms, including a master suite with a balcony overlooking the backyard. Stephanie arrived at 10, armed with champagne and decorations. Are you sure you want to go through with this, Hazel? She asked, arranging flowers in a vase. It's not too late to uninvite them. I need closure, I replied, though my stomach churned at the thought of seeing my mother and sister again. Besides, they're just 3 people out of 30 guests. If things get uncomfortable, we'll have plenty of buffers. The caterers arrived at noon, setting up stations throughout the first floor. By 3, everything was ready, food, drinks, music, and my nerves completely on edge. My colleagues from the tech world arrived first, followed by neighbors eager to meet the new resident on their street. Professor Reynolds came with her husband, embracing me warmly and whispering how proud she was. Friends from college, industry connections, and my financial advisor rounded out the group of early arrivals. At 4:30, the doorbell rang again. I opened it to find my father standing awkwardly on the porch, a gift bag in hand. Dad, I said, the words still feeling strange in my mouth after so many years. Hazel, he replied, his eyes taking in the house behind me. This is impressive. I invited him in, giving him a brief tour while introducing him to a few guests. He seemed genuinely pleased to see how well I was doing, if somewhat out of place among the successful professionals who filled my home. Your mother and sister should be here soon, he mentioned as we reached the kitchen. They were planning to come together. I nodded, refilling my water glass to hide my nervousness. And how are they? Dad hesitated. Managing Eric's job situation has been tough on them. They sold their house last year and moved to a townhouse. Eleanor, your mom helps with the kids a lot. Before I could respond, Stephanie appeared at my elbow. More guests arriving, she murmured, including, I believe, your mother and sister. Taking a deep breath, I made my way to the front door. There they stood. Eleanor, barely aged despite the 14 years since I'd seen her, and Cassandra, still beautiful but with lines of stress around her eyes. Behind them stood Eric, looking significantly older and more worn than I remembered, and their 3 children, Thomas, now a teenager, Natalie, a preteen, and Benjamin, about 10 years old. Hazel, Mom said, her voice careful. Thank you for inviting us. Welcome, I replied, stepping back to allow them entry. Please come in. The children hung back shyly, clearly coached to be on their best behavior. I smiled at them, these niece and nephews I barely knew. There's a game room upstairs if you get bored, I told them. Second door on the right. That broke the ice a bit. Thomas asked if I had a gaming console, and when I confirmed I did, the kids disappeared upstairs. After quick thank yous, Eric commented, Beautiful home, Hazel. He looked around with professional interest. The architectural details are impressive. Thank you, I replied. The renovation took 6 months, but it was worth it. 6 months? Cassandra's eyebrows rose. You must have had quite a team working on it. I did, I confirmed, without elaboration. Would you like a tour? Leading them through the house, I noticed Cassandra's expression growing increasingly calculating. She ran her hand along the quartz countertops, peered into closets, and made comments about the excellent space for children in the backyard. Mom followed more quietly, occasionally commenting on a decoration or asking about a feature. This must have been quite an investment, Mom finally said as we reached the master bedroom. It was, I acknowledged. But I've been fortunate in my career. What exactly do you do now? Cassandra asked, sitting uninvited on the edge of my bed. Dad mentioned something about an app. I gave them the abbreviated version of my success story, watching their expressions shift from polite interest to stunned realization. You sold your company for millions? Cassandra clarified, her voice higher than normal. We did, I confirmed. The timing was right. The tour continued downstairs, where more guests had arrived. I introduced my family to Stephanie, to Professor Reynolds, to colleagues and friends who knew parts of my story. Throughout these introductions, I noticed Mom and Cassandra huddled in corners, whispering intensely. Eric seemed disconnected from their conversations, instead engaging genuinely with my tech industry friends. An hour into the party, I clinked a glass to gather everyone's attention. Thank you all for coming to celebrate this new chapter with me, I began. This house represents not just a place to live, but a milestone I once thought impossible. I'm grateful to everyone who supported me along the way. As I finished my brief speech, Cassandra, in true Cassandra fashion, stepped forward. As Hazel's sister, I'd like to say something too. Her voice carried that confident tone I remembered from childhood, the voice that usually preceded her getting exactly what she wanted. Family is everything, she continued, placing her hand on my arm. And seeing Hazel's beautiful home today has made me realize how perfect this would be for our family. A confused murmur ran through the guests. What Cassandra means, Mom interjected smoothly, is that we're so proud of Hazel for creating a space where family can gather. No, Cassandra corrected, her grip tightening on my arm. What I mean is that this house would be perfect for my family. With Eric's job situation and the kids needing good schools, we've been looking for exactly this kind of home in exactly this neighborhood. The room fell silent. Even the caterers stopped moving. Cassandra! Eric started, his face reddening. This isn't the time or place. It's exactly the time, she interrupted, completely disregarding him. Hazel's always wanted to help family. She's single, no kids, and clearly doing well financially. This 4-bedroom house is wasted on one person when we have 3 growing children who need space and stability. Mom nodded in agreement, adding, Family, Hazel. I stood frozen, unable to believe what I was hearing. After 14 years of no contact, after taking my college fund, they were now suggesting, no, expecting that I would give them my house. Hazel, Mom continued, her voice taking on the authoritative tone I remembered all too well. You need to pack your bags and find somewhere smaller. A condo downtown would suit your lifestyle much better. And it would mean the world to your sister's family. Cassandra was already walking around the living room, pointing out changes they'd make. Thomas could take the bedroom with the bay window. Natalie would love the purple room. And Benjamin would have so much space for his toys in the smallest bedroom. Mom joined in. After all Cassandra's been through, she deserves this. It's the least you could do as her sister. The room had gone completely silent. My guests looked between us in horrified fascination. Stephanie had moved to my side, her presence supportive but silent. I took a deep breath, feeling strangely calm despite the outrageous scene unfolding. I have something to show you, I said quietly, retrieving my phone from my pocket. Using the smart home system, I connected my phone to the large television in the living room. With a few taps, I pulled up a document and projected it onto the screen. What's this? Cassandra asked impatiently. This, I replied, my voice steady, is a restraining order I filed 14 years ago, after you kicked me out on my 18th birthday. The room fell into stunned silence as the legal document displayed on the screen. Even the caterers had stopped moving, standing frozen with trays in hand. What are you talking about? Mom's voice broke the silence, her tone a mixture of confusion and indignation. We never kicked you out. You chose to leave. I kept my voice level. Years of carefully maintained composure were serving me well. You gave me an ultimatum on my 18th birthday, except that my college fund would go to Cassandra's down payment, or pack my bags. I packed my bags. You didn't stop me. That was a disagreement, not an eviction. Cassandra scoffed, though her eyes remained fixed on the document. You were being dramatic. I slept in my car for 2 weeks. I replied simply. In February. In Boston. A murmur ran through the gathered guests. My dad stepped forward, his face ashen. I didn't know it was that bad, Hazel, he said quietly. You never told me. Would it have mattered? I asked. He had no answer for that. I swiped to the next document on my phone. This is more interesting, though. This is why I filed the restraining order. The screen now showed credit reports and loan applications, all in my name, all from the period immediately after I left home. What is this? Eric asked, moving closer to the screen. His financial background allowed him to understand what he was seeing before the others. After I left, I explained. Someone opened 3 credit cards and took out a personal loan in my name. They had my social security number, my birth certificate, and enough personal information to pass security questions. The total debt was just over $45,000. Mom's face had gone white. Cassandra suddenly became very interested in her wine glass. Fortunately, I continued, the detective who helped me was thorough. The credit cards were used at stores Cassandra frequented. The loan money was deposited into an account that then transferred the exact amount to your joint checking account, Eric. Eric turned slowly to face his wife. You told me that money was from your mother. A gift to help with the down payment. It was. Cassandra insisted, her voice tight. Mom helped arrange it. By committing identity theft against your own daughter. Professor Reynolds spoke up, her academic demeanor giving way to protective anger. That's a felony, in case you weren't aware. I'm sure there's been some This is the police report I filed. I interrupted. I had enough evidence to press charges for identity theft and fraud. The detective was particularly interested in this loan application. I zoomed in on a signature where someone attempted to forge my signature but spelled my middle name incorrectly. Cassandra's hand shook so badly she had to set down her wine glass. If you filed charges, why weren't we arrested? She challenged, though her voice lacked conviction. Because I didn't pursue it. I answered simply. I was 18, terrified, and despite everything, you were still my family. So I made a deal with the detective. I would pay off the fraudulent debts myself if they documented everything but held off on prosecution. I swiped to another document. This is proof of payment. Every cent of that $45,000, plus interest, paid by me over 3 years. While I was putting myself through college, working 3 jobs, sleeping 4 hours a night, eating ramen noodles to survive, all while paying off debt I never incurred. Eric looked physically ill. I had no idea, he said, his voice barely audible. Cassandra told me her parents were helping with the down payment as a gift. Just one parent. I corrected gently. And it wasn't a gift. It was theft. Mom finally found her voice. You're twisting everything to make yourself the victim, she accused, her voice rising. We've always done everything we could for you. Sometimes families need to make hard choices for the greater good. The greater good? Dad's voice rose unexpectedly. Eleanor. She was 18. Our daughter. And you stole from her. Mom turned on him. Don't you dare judge me, Michael. You walked away. You left me to handle everything. I left you, not our daughters, he retorted. And I certainly didn't authorize you to steal Hazel's college fund or commit fraud in her name. He turned to me. I knew about the college fund, Hazel, he admitted. I'm sorry I didn't fight harder for you. But the credit cards, the loan. I had no idea. I nodded, accepting his partial apology for what it was. Cassandra, seeing support crumbling, changed tactics. It was a difficult time, she said, tears welling in her eyes. We had a baby, needed a home. Mom was just trying to help us. And you weren't around to ask. If you'd stayed, communicated, maybe things would have been different. Maybe, I acknowledged. But that doesn't justify fraud. I swiped to another document. This might interest you too, Eric. While investigating the identity theft, I discovered quite a bit about your family finances. These are records of 6 failed business ventures Cassandra invested in without your knowledge, using joint funds. The total losses exceeded $200,000 over 8 years. Eric's face drained of color. What business ventures? Her college friend Megan's clothing boutique, her cousin's restaurant, a subscription box service for luxury pet products, among others. I listed.